Another way of talking about the body's self-healing capacity. And anything that unleashes more of that is going to be a better system.
I was absolutely desperate to have children. It was one of the reasons why I'd gotten divorced. I wanted children, my husband didn't. So I moved to London thinking it would take me a maximum of 2 years to find myself a new partner and settle down, and I'd be out in the country having my 2.5 children and I'd be totally happy. That was my plan. I was very good at making plans. So there I was. I had my osteopathic practice. I was seeing clients. And I was stressed, frustrated, depressed. And I had been having headaches for years, maybe 10 years. I'd been having these terrible headaches, which were getting worse and worse and worse. Sometimes they lasted as long as 5 days. I had a routine visit with my doctor, and the doctor found that my hormone level was very much out of balance and immediately suspected that I had a tumor. So I was sent for a brain scan, and they diagnosed a prolactinoma. It was a huge shock, out of the blue, and I felt at first how unfair. I went off to the medical library and started to learn everything I could about this tumor. And when I discovered that it caused infertility, I thought, that is so ironic. Every cell in my body was saying, I want children, and I had somehow created a tumor that stopped me having children. There had to be some reason for this. There had to be, this was too much of a coincidence, I thought. And I got very curious. Because of my alternative medicine background, I decided to treat it alternatively, rather than go for the orthodox drugs or surgery.
Arielle decided to utilize neuro-linguistic programming, or NLP, to approach her tumor.
So then I got into doing NLP at a much deeper level. Got through the master practitioner level, came home, and was totally inspired as to what I could actually do. I started to really understand what NLP was all about.
NLP is a practical form of psychology, which starts from where you are now and looks at where you want to be and uncovers what's in the way.
If you have, like my 5-day headaches, and you'd like to be without a tumor in your end state, the journey to get from square one to the end square is, what we actually start exploring with NLP.
Arielle made some very interesting discoveries as she began working with NLP.
Now, remember, I was the person who thought every cell in her body wanted children. And what I discovered was that deep down, that going back to early childhood, I had such an abhorrence of what my family had been like, that the last thing in the world part of me wanted was to be a mother. And this really, really shocked me. I thought I wanted one thing, and in fact, an unconscious part of me was going in a completely different direction. And when I understood the reasons why it didn't want children and what it was based on, I was able to kind of let go of that and allow it to be the way it was, and at least to understand why I'd created a life that didn't go down that path. One day, I heard myself shouting inside my head. It was like this little voice saying, I'm so sick of this. I just want to be rid of this whole nightmare. I want to be rid of this tumor. And I stopped in shock as I listened to this voice inside my head, and I went, wow, there's a lot of anger in there. A lot of frustration. That's a lot of self-attack. If I'm attacking my tumor with all those thoughts of wanting to get rid of it, that's murderous. That can't be healing. And I had never looked at healing in that way. And I realized then that every thought I'd had was actually about making it go away. Now, that's a conflict. That's a huge inner conflict. And I decided to look at that a little bit more closely, and I thought, well, what would be the opposite? It has to be acceptance. I thought to myself, well, what would it be like if I really accepted this tumor? And this was quite a few years later, but it was absolutely a turning point in my healing when I realized that my tumor had taken me down a journey I'd never planned. It had taught me things I had never intended to learn. I had changed my career. I had changed my whole outlook. I had learned lots of things about myself and others. I had insights I'd never had before. I'd met amazing people, wonderful people all over the world. I'd had the support of people all over the world. And I realized I liked myself a lot better. And so I thought, okay, I can see that this tumor hasn't been totally bad. What if it has a purpose or a reason for being here? Because obviously it's done a good job so far. So if it's got a purpose for being here and it's still here, maybe there's still a purpose. What would happen if I gave it permission to stay for the rest of my life? It was 6 months after I had that realization and I got to the point of accepting the presence of my tumor. I had my routine blood test and went to see my specialist, and to my surprise, my hormone levels were completely normal. And when my doctor saw them, he just went, wow, that's incredible. And, I thought it had been a mistake. I thought maybe the blood test reading was wrong or something. I said, well, so much time has passed and I'm older now. Maybe my hormones have changed. He said, no, can't be that. He said, this can only mean one thing. Your tumor has gone. And he said, this is a real credit to you. I don't know how you've done it. I don't know what you've been doing. But I have to tell you, I've seen you for 10 years and you're not the same person you were 10 years ago. You are completely different.